Hi folks, time for another haul. Okay, I've got 25 books here to do, so maybe we'll take our time a little bit, no need to rush. So the first is brand new and not science fiction, but we'll allow it. It's Tad Williams, it's the third book, Into the Narrow Dark, third book in the new series that he's done in the same world as Memory, Sorrow and Thorn from 30 odd years ago, which I really enjoyed. So I've read the first two, I enjoyed those as well. Maybe not as much as the original trilogy, but it's a different take. Some of the characters from the original are now quite a lot older and have got children or even grandchildren of their own. This was new, arrived in the post the other day. And then we have William Gibson, Virtual Light, which is slightly tatty on the spine, and a bit dog-eared on the front there, but it's a nice first edition trade paperback of this book. I quite like the cover illustration with the obligatory reflective sunglasses on the front. Nearly all of his books seem to have women with sunglasses on the front. This one's set in 2005. This was published in 1993. So it was set from his point of view 20 odd years in the future, and it's now obviously 20 odd years in our past. In this 2005, Northern and Southern California have split. I imagine the North seceding from the South, but anyway, there's now two states there, not one. Ex-cop Barry Rydell only wants to make a living, so he signs on with a private security company and finds himself driving a six-wheeled Hotspur Hussar, whatever that is, through the streets of Fortress LA. I've got 4 now Gibson books, 2 in a similar format to this, I think, but smaller. And then this one, Camp Zero, is from an author I've never heard of, Michelle Min Sterling. It's a newish book. I think it was only published. Let me see. Yeah, it's actually brand new, published this year. Climate fiction deal, I think. At least that's the background for it. So it's set in 2049 in America. Summer temperatures are intolerably high. Fossil fuel industry is shut down, and humans are implanted with a flick at birth, which allows them to remain perpetually online. Wouldn't my kids love that? From what I can gather reading the back, it's a story with several strands which undoubtedly all tie back together at the end. So it's interesting. The Deadlands, which is the picture, I mean, there's an absence of a boy, but it sort of reminded me of The Road, and indeed it is. The world as we know it has gone, destroyed by a virus no less, that wiped out nearly every human on the planet. Some few survivors built walled cities, fortresses to keep them safe from those the virus didn't kill, but did change. And then until a day a stranger appears, she speaks of a green and fertile land far to the west, a land of promise and plenty, safe from the ruin the virus has wreaked. She has come to lead the survivors away from the sanctuary to the promise of a new life without walls. But those who follow her will discover that not everything she says is true. Intriguing. Finely crafted and relentlessly inventive, according to the Washington Post. It's interesting. So it's from a guy I've never heard of, Benjamin Percy. I do like a bit of end of the world storytelling, so I shall definitely be hitting that up at some point. And then I've got a newish edition of Octavia Butler's Kindred, which is a pretty old book these days. Originally published in 1979, and this is only a few years old, this edition. Yeah, so this is a timey-wimey thing. In 1976, Dana dreams of being a writer. In 1815, she's assumed a slave. When Dana first meets Rufus on a Maryland plantation, he's drowning. She saves his life, and it will happen again and again. Neither of them understand his power to summon her when his life is threatened, nor the significance of the ties that bind them. Octavia Butler's an author that I hear very good things about, have never read. I've got one of her books on my TBR pile for this month. I think I'm going to end up taking on holiday with me. So I'm going to be looking forward to reading those. Next, also not sci-fi, but kind of SF adjacent, just because of the author. This is the first book of the King of Is sequence, which is actually not in very good condition. It was a bit bent up. And volume 3 of the same series. I already had volumes 2 and volume 4, so I've been kind of looking out for them, and I found them in the Oxfam bookshop in Henley last weekend, so that would have been the weekend of the 16th of July, that weekend. So They're not great quality, but at least I'll have a full set, so at some point when I decide I want to read them, I can. Next is another female science fiction author that I've never, until recently, never heard of, and certainly haven't read anything by. But this is All Clear by Connie Willis. It's set in the Second World War, as the picture suggests. Oxford historians Michael Davis, Merritt Ward and Polly Churchill have been sent back in time to observe World War II. But something has gone awry, and all three have found themselves trapped in 1940. They're struggling not only to find their way home to 2060, but to survive as Hitler's bombers tried to pummel London into bloody submission. They are also all trying to ignore little discrepancies in the historical record, because discrepancies mean that one or all of them has altered the past, possibly even changing the outcome of the war. So that is right up my alley. That will be coming to a TBR pile near you very soon. And then I found, I think in the same visit to the Oxford Bookshop in Henley, I found in pretty good condition, I mean it's not perfect, but pretty good condition, a hardback of Heinlein's Beyond This Horizon, printed in it's not a first edition or anything exciting like that. I mean, the book was first published in 1942, and by oh God, why do I always have trouble saying this? Sidgwick and Jackson in 1966. So this is a reprint, New English Library reprint from 1983. So nothing special, but it's in good condition. It looks pretty tight. The pages are a little bit sort of foxy on the top there, but never mind. Okay, and then I think we've got several here which arguably aren't science fiction. I've been diversifying, going off piste. So the first one is Gridiron by Philip Kerr, which I only got because I had an old paperback of this in the 1990s, which I quite liked. It's set in a sort of futuristic-ish world, you know, near future world, in a building called Gridiron. It's a smart building, and it won't massively surprise you to know that it develops a mind of its own and starts killing its occupants, as I recall. And that is in very nice condition. The cover's in good nick, the book underneath is in good nick, pages are all tight, there's a little bit of barely noticeable kind of spine lean. Nothing too problematic. And then I think the next three I would describe as SF adjacent. As an obscure Scottish author, you might have heard of him. Ian Noam Banks. So this one is The Business, which I have read. This cost me, I think I bought, well, you'll see the others. I bought three for something like £12 total off eBay. So I seem to have started something here. I bought the Steep Approach to Garberdale the other day. It was in the last haul, and that set me thinking as to, you know, why shouldn't I have all of Ian Banks's non-science fiction works in hardback where I can get them. So this one's in not bad condition. It's a little bit kind of squished on the dust jacket at the top, but otherwise it's got a couple of price tickets on the back. It's accumulated over the years. This is about a mysterious and secret business called The Business, which is as much as I remember, honestly. And then Complicity was the first Ian Banks book that of any kind that I ever read. I read it while I was at university in the early 90s. But anyway, this is actually it's not a first edition or anything. It's a book club edition, I think. Let me check. Yeah, BCA edition, but still, it's in good. Well, of the three, it's actually in the least good condition. The dust jacket in particular is pretty battered at the top, but hopefully, if I leave it alone on the shelves, it will get flattened out a bit. And then, in the same order, my eBay purchase frenzy, I bought A Song of Stone. I do find these black and white sort of, well, they're sort of visually appealing in a sort of severe sort of way, but they could do with a bit of colour. It's one of the reasons why I really like the Steep Approach to Garberdale, because although it's got black and white kind of core, it has at least got some colour in it. This one is in pretty tight condition. The text block is a bit kind of yellowed, but it's otherwise sound. So next is, I do have a full set of the Dark Tower, but they're mix and match sizes, and so when I see a hardback in decent condition, then I'm just going to nab it. And in fact, I was lost for an hour on eBay looking to see what I could find, and very nearly bought a bunch more. But I'm restraining myself. I'd forgotten that these hardback editions have some nice kind of colour, glossy colour illustrations in them. At least I think they're colour. Well, black and white mainly with a bit of red, and that I believe is Mr. Stephen King, who stars in his own story, which is a bit freaky deaky. Yeah, so this is book 6, Song of Susanna. So I will replace my pretty standard issue paperback with that one, and we'll do that very happily. It's in quite good condition. And then yet another book that I already have a paperback of that I've unceremoniously turfed off my shelves to be replaced by a pretty good hardback. So this is Space by Stephen Baxter. It's one of the Manifold Space series. Manifold 2 in fact is the second one, so I forget, Time would have been the first one. So this, I believe, is a UK first edition from the year 2000. That's after we finished partying like it was 1999. I haven't read that. I've read all of those, all of that series of Baxter's. So Time, Space, Origin, and the other one, Phase Space, is it? And I remember enjoying them, but I couldn't tell you the first thing about them, so I'll probably have to read them again. And then we've got a couple of Larry Nivens. So Destiny's Road, which I think is a recent printing, but it's in very good condition. It's Orbit 1997 as 2000 reprint. It's got a list of characters, a dramatis personae at the front, which is always encouraging, and a map. Brilliant. So this is a abandoned colony story, I think. Not one I've heard of before, so add that to my burgeoning Larry Niven collection. I must read some of them. And then a book of his with Joe Pennell that I have read, but not for decades, The Mote in God's Eye, which is a sort of alien contact story that I don't remember a great deal about, really. Very little, in fact. But I remember enjoying it, so I'll look forward to rereading that again at some point. And I found a nice pan lozenge of The View from Serendip, which I don't think is a novel. I think it's a collection of sort of essays, observations, some sort of autobiographical details, some sciencey stuff. Quite a lot of it about deep sea diving off the coast of Sri Lanka, as far as I can tell. But anyway, it's a pan lozenge. It's by Arthur C. Clarke, so that's legit. Okay, it's just a few more left. So a really nice copy of The Gods Themselves, which I thought I had, but I don't. I checked on my magic spreadsheet. It's got the tiniest little bit of chipping on the side there, you can see, just a tiny bit. Judicious application of a black Sharpie would disguise that quite well, I think. Yeah, so that is a reprint, I'm sure, from it's a 1972 publication in this format, reprinted in 1978. In a nice panther cover with a Chris Foss illustration, of course. So that can get added to my Asimov shelf, which is this one up here. I think that's nearly all Asimovs. I might run through them in a video at one stage. There are several authors where I have enough that might be worthwhile doing. I have Star Begotten by H.G. Wells, which is the first time it's been published, supposedly, which probably means it's a bit shit, because H.G. Wells' works have been around for a long time. So this was the first publication in 1975. It was written in 1937, and I don't know if it's a novel or predictions or what. I think it's novels. Anyway, Star Begotten by Mr. Wells. And then back to Mr. Clarke, another pan lozenge of Childhood's End. I do already have this exact copy, which is a bit brighter actually, but it's in this one, the one I've just got, is in much nicer condition than this one. This one's a bit bent. It's a bit untidy on the spine, but it is in much nicer condition. I have just read this one, and do you know what? I didn't like it very much. I know that's kind of heresy. I'm probably going to get struck down by science fiction lightning any minute, but I'm struggling even to write the review because it just didn't make an impression on me. It probably makes me a very bad person. Oh, another Larry Niven. I'd forgotten about that. A World Out of Time. Also a very clean copy. Bit of scuffing on the spine, and this dates back to 1977. This, I'll have you know, is a UK first edition paperback. Ta-da! It's probably worth millions, and I bought it for 99p. Can't be bad. And then also for 99p, Frank Herbert, The Best Of 1965 to 1970, edited by somebody called Angus Wells. Don't think I've read any Frank Herbert short stories. And then the last two from this haul are useless to me, in that they are books 3 and 4 of a set that I don't have books 1 and 2 of. They're books 3 and 4 of the Riverworld Saga. I'm not sure which starts with To Your Scattered Bodies Go, which I have heard of, haven't read. I don't know how many there are in total, whether there are 4 or more than 4. So those are just going to sit on my shelf looking slightly beaten up, as they are a bit worse for wear on the spine. I'm going to, it's that way up, sit on my shelves forlornly with the other Philip Jose Farmers until I find books 1 and 2. They will turn up, I am sure. The universe will provide. Right, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.